Some people are asking for a more of an overview of the whole layout. Some people are asking to see more trains running. Let's do both. Hi, welcome back to Chadwick Model Railway. I'm Charlie and you join me today on a kind of a layout overview sort of day. So what's all that about? Well, it's what we've achieved in the last 12 months and what we hope to achieve in the next 12 months with the various projects at their various stages of development. But a lot of people ask, how big's this room? How does it all fit together? So what I thought I'd start with first is a warts and all look around the layout so you can see the size of the room and the shape of how it all sort of fits together. Now we start at the end away from the layout. So there's a door in, there's the office where I do my editing, there's a huge pile of junk here, bits and bobs that I use in day to day, a door to a toilet, and then there's the little sink area where you see me scrub track in the past. I've recently ripped out the resin sink. It was dreadful, couldn't keep the wretched thing clean, it was awful, and I had a stainless steel sink put in instead. And then of course we zoom on down to the other end of the room where we get to the Chadwick Parkway sign and the start of what we call it, the north wall. Now the length of that whole wall is 8 meters, but from the corner over there coming right back up to the end of this helix here, that layout length is actually 5.7 meters. Moving on to the width of the layout. So here we are at the other end again. There's the two computer screens and hopefully I can get the whole of the wall in. Can I? Yeah, just about. So the width of the room is 5.1 meters. Now if I just raise this light up a little bit, you can see that there are sort of rails on the ceiling, and this is the system that I use to move the lights around. And I can kind of move them on rails, which makes the sort of filming not easier, but I can move the lights accordingly. Okay, so that was the width of the room, but that doesn't actually show the width of what people call the peninsula. So here we are at the freight yard, and if I zoom into the freight yard, so we go from there out to the end of Helix 2, known as a sort of a peninsula, and the length of that is actually 3.5 meters. Now that leaves just under a 1 meter gap here to be able to come through here and then go down to the other end. And I did this obviously to stop the duck under, because this layout just came around in a massive oval, but my knees were completely shot away by trying to get underneath it all the time. Hence I went down the avenue of building the two helix. Right, a quick look around the shelves. And as you can see, I do put a great deal of stuff up on the shelves because it does sort of keep it away from the layout and some kind of air of tidiness. If you're going to put shelves up, do it the right way and put the shelves up before the layout, as I've struggled on and on with this of you know, the debris from drilling holes in walls all sort of dripping all over the layout and this sort of stuff. Over the far end there we have all my selections of glues, and I'm sort of labelled up boxes, and I try to be a bit more kind of disciplined really. So as you can see, there's some boxes there, and then I think we're done. Oh no, and then we've got the certificates from the Hornby magazine for the YouTube of the Year Award, for which I am extremely grateful for your vote. And now finally we're in this little cutout section where the new station will be here, the river scene will be built here, and here across of course is the TMD. You can get a general feel for the layout. This is probably about, I don't know, 1.5 meters wide. So it's big enough for people to play trains, because the idea was, you know, you'd have a guy here running this station, a guy here running the TMD, and someone else running perhaps the branch line station or the freight yard. So that should hopefully give you a better feel for the room. Now I need to do some work on this area here, because this is obviously the entrance here with this little plastic Hornby sort of tunnel mouth, because I need to get the trains there, therefore in and out of the helix, you know, in some kind of realistic manner. Now obviously, because we've got a helix and a tunnel mouth, we naturally need a hillside. So coming up from here, there will have to be a hillside coming out onto this board. And obviously on this board here, I need to join this face up with the face of this tunnel mouth. So we have to have some kind of construction here and then running up into a realistic hillside. We like a challenge, don't we? The tunnel and the helix is now guarded by a 4-aspect signal, and it's wired up so that as the trains go down the helix, it then goes from red to a single yellow to a double yellow and then eventually to a green. So that's synced up with the various levels of the helix to give trains separation. So that's the way that works, and it seems to work pretty good. Now this class 40, as she comes down, it will trigger the red here, and it needs to be triggered much earlier. So I need to change the sensor from here back to here, and then as the class 50 makes its way down the layout, hopefully you can see that we go from a red to a yellow and eventually to a double yellow, and then finally to a green. Oh, I forgot to mention that just to one side of the helix is my little workbench, which is currently configured where I do my little figure painting. It's a useful asset, and myself and my friend Lance had a little painting session last week. And as you can imagine, I'm trying to build on the lessons that I learned from Dan Everson when I popped up to his place a couple of weeks ago. I must confess I'm pleased with how my skills are developing. So now, starting with the branch line station, we'll then move on and have a look around the layout at the projects that need to be addressed. Changing the location of these tracks going into the branch line station forced me obviously to move the signal unit for platforms 1 and 2. So I've reconfigured that, glued this in position, put on the sides brickwork and the cobbling, and now I'm ready to fit these up. The replacement ramp sections have been painted, and I have also painted along obviously the Board of Trade white stripe, and then matte varnished and used a black wash, the same as I did with the rest of the platform. So I just need to glue these on. So I shall use just a bit of ordinary cheap PVA to whack these on, and we should all be good to go. Now, needless to say, I have carried out a trial fit of the signal, but I'm not going to fit it whilst the PVA is going off, because that might be a too big a risk, really. But as you can see, the hole has been substantially reduced and we all line up pretty much perfectly. Super job. And then obviously once it's dry, we can refit our signal. Now, I had asked Steve Smith from Railway Laser Lines to work on a new station building for me to go in this area here. he did the drawings and everything else, and I think we agreed that it was too big. So what could we use instead? Well, good old Steve came up with a new design, and this is sort of a pre-production model in its embryonic stage, and when the final thing is finished, we'll build this between us and show you, how we did it, and hopefully will be available commercially if it's something that might suit your layout. Anyway, so the idea is we pop this one in place of the larger one, and then you're faced with the dilemma of canopies, because people will need to come out of the back of the station onto the platform and then down the platforms to catch their trains, but they need to do it undercover. Now these are the dapole frames of the ones I've been thinking of using, but of course when you come out of here, you'll need somewhere to stand in undercover. So my thoughts are, if we bring these back to meet the building, sort of in that area there, and then butcher one of the original ones, so that will give us, forget these last three, we'll cut those off. So this will give us cover coming out of the building, and then they can go left or right then to catch their train. Well, actually they go right, because this is the redundant platform, as you probably remember. So we'll have the same sort of canopy across this first section, and then we'll go down the platform to catch our trains. So that's kind of where we are with this design, and once this is in and sorted, I can then sort out the rest of the stuff. Now, developing the station further, clearly my passengers are going to need somewhere to sit. I wanted some benches, and these are hard to find because there's no major manufacturer that turns out the GWR style bench. Anyway, looking on eBay, there's obviously some gifted individual who's making these sort of 3D printed, so I bought 3 lots of 2. And so with these 6 benches, I put the initial coat of paint on them, but as you can see there on the ironwork, it says GWR, and that'll be picked out in like an ivory tone, and they'll make a great asset to the station. And now as we look down the station, we can see that the ramp signals are now in, finished, complete and working. And whilst on the subject of signals, we go down to the far end. There's the red 3-aspect signal to come out of the branch line station, and there's also now a 3-aspect signal which comes from the helix up by that signal box to protect the junction which goes across the viaduct. Now, moving on from the branch line station side of things, I come to these 2 main lines going to and from the helix. Now, this layout is based 1968, 1974 pre-TOPS kind of times. But these tracks would have had a 100 mph speed limit on them. And they would have been changed to concrete sleepered track. And I've made the mistake of putting wooden sleepered code 100 down, which I should never have done. So in slow time, I do intend next year to rip these tracks out and replace them with concrete sleepered tracks. But it's not necessarily a vital sort of job to be done, because there are more important jobs down the line. Now, protecting the junction here from the other side of the viaduct for the upline traffic is a 3-aspect with a feather signal. Now, it has been mentioned that actually this signal is probably in the wrong place. If you're enjoying this, don't forget to subscribe. Now, coming back from that signal into the station, obviously we've got this very fierce curve over there on the double slip past the signal box, and here are facing us the 3 uplines, as it were, and we've got a parcels wagon in on platform 3. Then on platform 2, I've got an interloper at the moment, part of another future filming project. I've got a class 56, and on the main upline we've got this bubble car. And now clearly we need to think about the signals that will control these 3 lines exiting onto this one main line, which then goes over the viaduct. So what do we need? Well, actually what we need coming out of platform 3, which is the bay platform is that very signal that I just showed you protecting the viaduct. So we need a 3-aspect signal with a feather, because we're moving the point of view of the branch line junction. Rather than display it around the corner there, we need to actually display it here. It doesn't need to be right next to that set of points. So if I was to move that signal back to here, so this will go at the end of platform 3, that's that one sorted. But now obviously we have platforms 2 and the main upline to sort out. So what I think I actually need to do is get absolute aspects to build me a gantry that goes in here. And that gantry would actually have 2 3-aspect signals with a feather. So exactly the same as this, but coming out of here across these 2 tracks, and all 3 then would have 3-aspect signals with a gantry. You might say, well, that's going to cost more money. Well, actually, you'd still need signals here, even if I had that one at the other end. So actually, by moving that one, because it is in a dodgy place, because from an operator's point of view, you can never see that signal. You know, it's only the train that will go around there that carries a camera that will show you the position of that signal. So we will relocate that one to here, and then order from Tom at Absolute Aspects the sort of one-legged gantry. I don't want it to be a sort of a 2-legged one. So a one-legged gantry coming out of there across these 2 tracks, both with 3 aspects and a left-hand feather. And we don't need position lights, so it should be a straightforward construction. Beautiful. Which takes us on to the next dilemma, which is the fast up and the fast down through the station. Now you may or may not know Totnes Station, but it's kind of similar to this, but without platform 3. So you have a fast up and a fast down, and you have 2 lines which feed the platforms. And naturally, these 2 fast lines running through the centre should be in concrete sleeper track. So my intention before I start working on this station is to change those tracks. So that's kind of the most immediate problem to be sorted out. And it's no big deal really, you know, hopefully I can, because it's down with copy decks, I should be able to peel it off, leave the foam pretty much intact, take it out. I think it's 6.5 meters of track I need to purchase and pop them in. I must be honest with you, I went to an antique centre in Gillingham a few months ago. My wife is into sort of, you know, as most women do, sort of looking around at antique bits and bobs, and I found a wodge of concrete sleeper track that had been used. Well, most of it had been used, but it's in perfect condition in an antique centre. There must have been I don't know, 15 pieces of track there for £10. Needless to say, it's in the cupboard. Anyway, so I need to put that together and put it on here. One thing I will change with where I put this track down now is, let's say I've got 3 pieces of track, you know, 3 sort of 36-inch or 1 metre pieces of track, is I intend to solder the tracks together and then just put droppers on the centre track, rather than put droppers on every single piece of rail. I think that if you can use the centre track to do it, and then just solder the fish plates across. Obviously you've got to have a decent solder joint there, but it will cut back on your wiring. So I've done it on this track up here going into the branch, and I will do it on not necessarily both lines. I do it on this line, but this line here has to have certain brakes, because this is the line I use for train controller to do its speed calibration. But it's just a way forward, as it were. And it is quite a bit of track really, because it runs right from now, right round there, right round to that bridge behind me, the bowstring bridge. So it's quite a lot of track. But at the end of the day, what is it? I don't know, 2 days work. So yeah, sometimes I need to just shut up and get on with it. Right. Now let's talk about the next thing, the station. Now I must confess, I have never been one to rush into this station, because I've always sort of had doubts on how it would work and how it would hang together, where the road would go, would it have a roundabout and shops and all this blah. Right. In simplest terms, the whole layout is covered in 3mm cork. But also between the 3mm cork there is this 5mm foam track bed from Woodland Scenics. So now we have the dilemma of building a platform in which a building can be placed, and so the general public can come out of the station kind of thing straight onto their train. And there is this is too short, so we can do this by adding another layer of 3mm cork on top of here. That'll give us 6mm, that's 5mm, this is 18mm, and it then takes us up to the right level. And if I can just throw a tatty old piece of 3mm cork there, I can see now that the doors open just above the level of this, and we're kind of good to go. Lovely, no problems. Well, not really, because invariably you end up with platforms that you've got to get up the ramp to get to the station and all the rest of it. And if I was to use a thinner piece of board, let's say something like this, and there's the station, and then obviously this would be cut down, but your cars would pull up, and now you've got to get from this level up to the station platform level. So my plan is to cover this whole area from right back there right up to here and down there in 18mm ply. Now I'm fortunate that I have a lot of scrappy old offcuts, and you shouldn't put plywood through your wood burner, so I haven't been burning it. So I can lay 3mm cork, then trim the platform. Trim this so the whole level is kind of raised up, throughout from that hill right through to this hill. It will be higher, and then this roadway here would naturally come straight on to this board here, so it would form a new level of the actual road surface, or the surface of the landscape. So we're all now up 18 to a 21mm higher because of the 3mm cork on top of the 18, which then fits with the 5mm track bed from Woodland Scenic, so it all kind of fits. So I need to expand that out, get the cork track bed, the cork down, glue it all down, then trim the 18mm ply so that I get a nice decent platform running right through, and we'll all be kind of good to go. Beautiful. There we are, that's my plan. And then over the other side, naturally you can see that here there would be some landscape coming down here, but this would be platform 2, and in between this track and that track is platform 3, the bay platform, and this again would be sort of hillside going up into the branch line station. So that's my idea, and if you've got a better one, then please leave it in the comment section down below, or of course if you agree, then please let me know. The thing is, with model railways, it's all about cost. Well, to be perfectly honest, this isn't about cost, because I have pretty much got enough 18mm ply to cover this area, because there is a large board over there which is kind of this wide but not quite as long, but is a bit unwieldy, which is why I haven't shown it in this clip of the video. But I think it will kind of work. That's the plan, because invariably you get these railway stations where you pull up in a car, now you've got to get up to the platform. Well, we don't now, because now the cars will be straight onto the surface. This is where the level of the platforms will be. The whole of this area will be 18mm higher, running straight into this piece here. So your traffic will come along and it will be at the same level, which is at platform height. That's my plan. What do you think? So after the platform areas for Chadwick Parkway, it then takes us to this area here, where it makes perfect sense to work from the back forwards, because obviously you don't want to finish this and then crawl all over it. and I've been developing over time this farm scene. Now I've made a mistake here because the hill, I was kind of wanted a hill, so I didn't want it to look too flat, so I've sort of propped it up. But as you can see, it's propped up a little too far, so I will sort of reduce the angle there by half of it. And it's accessed via this little sort of bridge that I installed. And just to give you the scale, there's a small tractor, if it will stay still, just so you can see the relative size of it. And the idea was there'll be an open level crossing across that branch line track, and then a few more farmy bits here going over the railway. So I need to develop that. And that whole board will come out, that triangular board will just pull out. So I can pull it out, develop it, sort of tweak it up, get the trees, bushes, landscape done, and then drop it back in almost as a completely separate diorama. So that should work quite well. So I need to do that really before I then turn my focus to the retaining walls and hillside that go right around the edge of this freight yard line, which obviously needs to be done before any real ballasting work or work on this hillside. But that's a nice little, I suppose, a winter's job really, where you can take something out, work on it on a bench for an hour or two, you know, without sort of getting into the electronics and everything else that kind of drag you down when you find that something on your railway doesn't work. And I think that's one shortcoming with my sort of attitude to the layout itself, is you start doing a job and then you think, oh, hang on a minute, this needs fixing. And then someone said to me it was butterfly modelling, where you kind of flit from one job to another and you then have 10 jobs that are half finished. Well, 3/4 finished, but you know, it's the last sort of 25% that makes it look nice. And of course, you know, I might do something over there on the branch line station and then I get a duff point, so that takes more priority, so I come over and do this. And then I got that loco that doesn't work, and then the sound chip doesn't work, and then I bought something else. And of course, we all do it. We flit from one project to another, and it's something that I need to be more aware of, let's say, and focus on one particular area. As far as the channel's concerned, though, I try to break it up a little. I mean, earlier this year I did 3 airbrush videos and 2 figure painting videos, and people came back and said, oh, thanks a lot, it's brilliant, yeah. Whereas the viewing figures were well down, because perhaps most people aren't into figure painting or airbrushing. They just want to see trains run around, and most people do. A few people do complain that they don't see trains running often enough. And of course, another major aspect is the development of the TMD. Sort of split into various areas here. We've got the landscaping of the hillside in the background. We've got the fuel depot here. And naturally, I can't develop the fuel depot until I've worked on this hillside over here and working from the back forward. And also there is the gully in the middle where the trains go down into Helix 2. So again, another project that's kind of halfway there, let's say. Trains can run, but of course you don't really have the reward of seeing trains coming in and out in beautiful scenery. But then, you know, we do these things one at a time, and perhaps priorities with the railway, you know, take second place with priorities with the family. Yeah, but that's the truth of it. But this one here, this is not the top priority by any stretch of the imagination, the TMD. But the walling section does need to be sorted, hopefully next year. It's a huge undertaking, this, isn't it? And now finally this brings us over to the freight yard, and the track work is all in and finished and it all works perfectly well. So the playability factor is already here. Of course, there's no scenery, there's no buffer stops, there's no ballast, there's no detritus, there's no support building structure. There are a couple of interlopers which you may have spotted again for a forthcoming video. Interesting. But if there's nothing to do here and there's lots to do elsewhere, well, that kind of must make you think about compiling a list of objectives to be achieved during 2025. So let's sort that out. So now you're up to date. You know what we've achieved in the last sort of 12 months or so, as you've seen the branch line develop, the TMD, all the landscape around there. We did the upper freight yard, all completed in 2024, along with other airbrush and figure painting videos. So where's the priority for 2025? Well, I think the branch line station buildings and canopies have got to be sort of the priority thing as soon as they come available, and I've agreed a way forward with Steve Smith from Railway Laser Lines about the exact design of the station building. And then once that bit's complete, I think I need to change our tack now and go over to the Chadwick Parkway station, and looking at the rear platforms, that's platforms 2 and 3, 2 being the main platform and 3 being the branch line station platform, and install those platform surfaces. Once they're in, I can then start on the wall that goes along up the back with the incline, which goes up towards the raised goods yard. And then once that bit's in, we can then think about the farm module and working our way out towards that bowstring bridge. And I think that will take us up really to late spring, early summer. I'm obviously peckish. Late spring, early summer. And that's kind of where we'll be then. Of course, in the meantime, lots of other things go on. I mean, you know, locos have to be serviced, rolling stock issues, and all this kind of blah goes on. But hopefully it gives you a clearer view of the way ahead for Chadwick in 2025. Now, I hope you found this video interesting, and as usual, I'd ask you to subscribe. Subscribing is free, it's no big shake, just hit the button and it's all much appreciated. But there's the big button for the patrons, and I do appreciate my patron support. Thank you very much indeed, and I'll see you in 2 weeks' time with a video here and here to keep you going. Thanks a lot, take care, bye bye.